Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Karen Schaefer, CFP.
Nobody's wearing through. Good morning, and thank you for that. We're assembling panel 2 on this exciting day. Let me just say, it's really a thrill and an honor for me to be here and to be able to be part of the launch of such a great idea for our profession. I'm at the point in my career where my introduction usually involves a lot of pasts. I'm the past chair of the CFP board. I'm the past chair of the Financial Planning Standards Boards that certifies planners outside the United States. I'm a past board member of the FPA, my financial planning association that I count on for my community among my peers. But I'm still a practicing certified financial planner professional, and that gives me great joy. I was asked earlier to become part of the Women's Initiative. Why are there so few of us women? Clearly is such a great profession for all of us. And Nancy Kistner, who put that little group together at CFP board, said, "So Karen, what are you going to do?" I already gave you my firstborn. I have a daughter, 34 years old, Caitlin Kelly Schaefer Yardley, who is a certified financial planner. But I had to admit, that's not quite enough, is it? I tried my best to do my pro bono work. When people ask me, I say yes, but I need to partner with the Foundation for Financial Planning to make real difference in the world, and certainly in this profession. So now it's my honor to partner with CFP Board and to make sure that what has been the best career in the world for Karen Schaefer personally, what has been such a rewarding experience for all of the people that we've met. We've talked to people all day long. Where are you? Where do you need to be? What's the best way to get there? And to see those happy, successful lives based on financial planning, it's time to make that available to everybody. So we're changing our focus just a little bit here. So the Center for Financial Planning has yet another focus. We're going to focus on this academic center. And we know we need to do that because even though CFP Board is very proud of its affiliation with registered programs in now 240 colleges, as Kevin mentioned, we need to support them. We need to make sure that they have what they need. What do you need is part of this conversation and part of the research and part of what the Center for Financial Planning is going to focus on. That's where we actually get to show potential financial planners what we're all about. That's where part of this rebranding is going to have to take place. And that's where the workforce is going to find their talent. If we're not supporting this, if we're not supporting this first step, then a lot of our great ideas are really going to be for naught. We're excited about the academic journal, the academic research curriculum for financial planning and related disciplines, the body of knowledge project, and so much more that can go on. But what I'd like to do today, while we have this precious moment where we can talk to one another a little bit, is to introduce you to a panel of people who are representing affiliate programs that are really doing the work that we need to support. We have Dr. Finley Graves. He's a CPA and professor of accounting, provost, vice president of academic affairs at the University of North Texas. Formerly, he was the dean of the College of Business and chair of the Department of Accounting at UNT. He was at Arthur Anderson, professor and head of Department of Accounting at Kansas State University. And he said, I'm an accountant. And we said, that's great. You're passionate about financial planning, and you're going to teach all of those accountants how that piece of financial planning makes for such a great financial planner. We also have Dr. Swarn Chaterjee. He's an associate professor of financial planning at the University of Georgia. And he's published more than 40 peer-reviewed papers and teaches classes in investing, portfolio management, and our new favorite, behavioral economics. He's also served as the co-director of the Financial Planning Performance Laboratory, and he's an affiliate faculty of the Institute of Gerontology at the University of Georgia. Rounding out our panel, we have Dr. Ruth Lytton. Now, what I'm supposed to tell you is that she's a professor and director of the financial planning program at Virginia Tech. She's received various student association, college, university, and professional association awards for her contribution as a teacher, researcher, and career academic advisor. But all you need to know is that it was her student knocking it out of the park. Rianka is a Virginia Tech graduate, and she was her advisor. So enough said about that one. And then to moderate, I'm happy to introduce you to Ray Ferrara, who is my co-chair for the development arm of what will be a very successful Center for Financial Planning. Ray has a very successful financial planning practice. It's a rather large practice in Florida, but it always starts with financial planning. Our job is to go out into the community and to raise money. If I have to say thank you for such a wonderful career and make sure that my legacy is this, making sure that my legacy is formed by this Center for Financial Planning. Ray is there shoulder to shoulder with me, and I think we would both say how gratified we are when we call people and say, we've got this great idea and we need to make it so. They're opening their checkbooks, they're giving us funds, and they're ensuring that our profession lasts longer than we do. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Ray, and let's hear what's going on with the Academic Center.
Thank you, Karen. Appreciate it very much. And Finley, Swarn. And I didn't realize we were going to have Dr. Ruth with us today, but it'll just be Ruth today. So, thank you very much for being here, and very appreciative of all of you who have returned from the break. Thought I would take just a moment before we get into the questions to kind of give a little bit of background. First of all, when Rianka referred to those old pale males, I can't apologize. I am one of them. I resemble them, and one of the reasons I'm as passionate about it as I am in the diversity that we need to bring to our profession is the fact that it's got to look like the people we're serving has been said. And these three people, along with 377 other registered programs around the country, 140 of which are issuing baccalaureate degrees, 50 some that are doing master's programs, and 5 today that are doing PhD programs, are going to play a very large role in making sure that we get there. I'm very proud of the fact that in our firm we have 12 advisors, 5 of whom are female, and 10 of the 12 of us are CFP professionals. So with that little bit of background, I'd like to welcome each of you. And how did we get here? What's the history behind the programs? What do the programs look like today? So Ruth, would you like to start?
Okay. Well, you've made a lot of progress, and I think one of the best indicators of that is during the registration of students during this semester for spring classes, we had almost a dozen freshmen come in and say, I want to be a financial planner. And we keep talking about the need for rebranding, and there is that need. There is the issue of trust, there is the issue of diversity, there is the issue of women being represented. But to think that we actually had almost a dozen freshmen come in and say, I want to be a financial planner, that's a huge difference from what we have seen in years past, where we have had transfer students who, as Rianka said earlier, they learned about financial planning through an educational session, through talking to another student, through word of mouth. But now we have students who have planners, who have parents who have financial planners. So that's a huge step in the right direction.
And we have CFP board registered programs at undergraduate, master's, and PhD levels. We've got large enrollments across those programs. And we have a large enough alumni base now in our region where we're recognized as a strong financial planning, a strong brand in financial planning. So while we're establishing ourselves professionally, academically, amongst our peers, we have a sort of a vague or siloed view on what financial planning is. And part of the challenge that we're facing academically is for a body of knowledge, we don't have a journal that's highly regarded, a resource in that area. And so that's the need that we have. And that's kind of where we're at.
Well, at the University of North Texas, the financial planning program is in the College of Business. That has some very good aspects, but it has some cons as well. It's good in that our students, and by the way, we've had a registered program since the 1980s. We were one of the earliest to have that, put it into place. And it's been there a long time, has a long history. The positive side of that is in the Department of Finance. The students get a really good background in finance. They get a good grounding in business in general. Tax is available, family business is available. A lot of courses are available. But within finance, it's a stepchild. It just doesn't enjoy, I think, the same respect. And that's something we need to change. And I think that's what this center might well be able to help us with, is that aspect of it within a college of business.
And I think the diversity that we represent is both a strength and a weakness, in that as you see us represented here, we represent the primary departments where you might find a program in financial planning. Typically it is in finance or perhaps in accounting, one of the business degree programs. But it is also found in family and consumer sciences, which is where Swarm is. And then my program, which is strictly undergrad, represents two different colleges. We have students graduating with a finance degree, actually a business degree, but a major in finance. And then we have students graduating with a degree in applied economic management, which represents the units across the country that are where we find these programs in agricultural and applied economics. That diversity adds to our strength, but that diversity also is a weakness for us in that students often don't know where to find us. Even if they had someone that they knew went through a program that was board registered, it may not be at the same department at a different institution. And I have to agree very much with what he said about being a stepchild. I think we're a stepchild in most all of these programs because we are a unique and young discipline. We are a unique and young profession, and we represent not just business programs, not just business content, if you will, although much of it is based in finance and economics, but the behavioral science piece has become so much more the last few years. And so what we need is an opportunity through this center to be able to really integrate not only the body of knowledge, but to grow that body of knowledge and to be able to conduct research that will continue to support that.
So each of you talk about being a stepchild. Swarn, I'll let you start. Where did your individual passion come from to start teaching and start to push the financial planning? Where did that start?
So I started off as a finance major, but then I discovered I took a class in the financial planning program at Texas Tech University, which is where I got my PhD from. And I learned that you could work with individuals, which was very rewarding to me. And that's when I became passionate about financial planning, because in this profession, not only are you helping people become financially successful or attain their goals, but it's this gratitude that you see in their faces, and that's hugely rewarding, and that's what made me passionate about financial planning.
Finley, how about you?
Well, my passion for it stems from my being dean of the College of Business, because while I was dean, I was looking across the college, looking for those programs where I could put resources and develop a niche. This is the University of North Texas. They're really good in financial planning. Well, if I could do that, put those resources there, I think that builds our reputation. We're in the DFW area. It's booming. It's a place where people are looking for students to, they're good at that. And that's how I became really interested in growing our program and enhancing it.
And Ruth, you?
I started out teaching basic personal finance class to college students, and over the years we started to talk about then developing a financial planning program that could be registered with the board and that we could see a bigger impact of helping individuals and families manage their money. And so from teaching about 5,000 students basic personal finance, we then evolved into having a curriculum to actually prepare young professionals to go out and hopefully make a difference through their careers.
That's great. So why is financial planning standing in academia important to the profession, to the firms? Why do we need to have all of this support? Finley, would you like to start?
I think, first of all, that as a profession, you need a growing body of knowledge. You need to be recognized as a profession that's growing, researching, answering questions, important questions about financial planning, and having people engaged in that kind of research to find out the answers to those questions, because there are a lot of interesting questions. I think behavioral, we're talking about behavioral questions and that. I just think as a profession, you've got to grow the body of knowledge.
Swarn?
And I would actually, Finley articulated that very well. In addition to that, I would also say that, so one of the things is having a strong, highly regarded, high stature academic program would help bring in the best and brightest students to our programs, and which in turn would serve as a conduit to, sort of supply the best and brightest graduates to the industry.
I think some of it is respect, quite frankly. It is respect for the profession, respect for the discipline, as truly a profession. We often are compared to accounting or law and saying we want to get there. Well, if you look at what are the basic tenets in terms of being a profession, it is typically a contribution to society, obviously, that we are making. It is a code of ethics, which we have despite our trust issues. It is a commitment to a body of knowledge and growing that body of knowledge, as our other two panelists have said. And then finally, it is some entry barrier, which we have through the CFP exam. So we have an opportunity to fully grow to become a profession, but to do that, we have to be able to grow the body of knowledge and get respect within our own institutions. As much as we ourselves might be stepchildren, we are in fact, we all want to be loved and respected. We want the resources that will help with the funding. We want to be able to grow so that we can in fact enlarge our programs to be able to send more students out into the workforce.
As the center potentially becomes a repository for that body of knowledge, either through a journal or through a website, et cetera, how do you see that helping you attract more students and qualified teachers as professors as well? Ruth?
Well, it's somewhat circuitous in that if we can fund more research, if we can have more ongoing research, that means more grad students. The more grad students that you can fund, then that means more people who are graduating with PhDs to go out and become active faculty members, which means we can then grow the number of programs that are out there, as well as to continue to replace the faculty who are nearing retirement. Because this program, or because these programs are fairly young, generally speaking, we also have a number of faculty who are aging and represent, to some extent, the rest of the profession. So as we start to retire, who's going to replace us is the question. And I know a lot of the programs use adjuncts from the community. A lot of the programs have started to incorporate clinical faculty or professors of practice, depending upon the institution. And those are people who have actual professional experience, and for whatever reason decide to either leave their practice permanently or to leave their practice on a part-time basis and come into the classroom. And we really benefit from that. Obviously, the educational process benefits from that. Who is a better person to be teaching financial planning in the classroom than someone who's had that actual experience? But the problem is when we bring in clinical faculty or we bring in professors of practice, they typically do not have the educational background, nor does their position require them to do research. And so we lose that opportunity to conduct research and build the body of knowledge. And here we're talking not just about the fundamentals of, what do you need to know to be a practicing professional, but we're talking about how do we ask some of these other questions that are deeper than that? How do we begin to integrate across the discipline? And to be able to do that, we need people that fully are trained as the professorate, the academy, if you will, the terms that we like to throw around in terms of the ivory tower. But ultimately, it's about doing research that will benefit not only the profession, but also our ultimate clients.
And again, that is, very well stated. And so the only other thing that I can add to that is having the center would serve as a repository for the path-breaking research that's happening in our field. So one example of that is, for example, at the University of Georgia, we have something called the Aspire Clinic, which does a lot of work on research on improving client-planner communication skills. And they're looking at psychological, physiological responses. But when our faculty are publishing those studies, they're having to go to top-tier psychology journals. Wouldn't it be nice if the Center for Financial Planning would be the repository of all of that research? So when financial planners, practitioners, scholars were looking for those articles or those studies, they wouldn't have to search journals of finance or economics or psychology. They could come to the Center for Financial Planning and find their knowledge or the body of knowledge or the resources that they're looking for. So.
Finley?
In a College of Business, it would be very difficult for a professor who was engaged in financial planning and financial planning research to go through the tenure process, to obtain tenure, to become a professor, because there is no financial planning journal that is on that level, an A-level, what we call A-level journals. They're practice journals, which are very valuable for the profession, but within academe simply don't count when one publishes in those journals. It doesn't count toward tenure and promotion. We have a list of journals in the College of Business that one has to publish in order to obtain tenure. There's nothing there for financial planning. And for someone in financial planning to be able to publish in, say, Journal of Finance would be very, very unlikely. I would just say unlikely at all. So to have a journal that would be a true academic research journal would provide that kind of access to tenure track in a College of Business. Okay. I'm not sure how it is for the others, but.
So Finley, let me follow up on that, talking about the journal. The center has talked about perhaps starting an academic journal for you all to be able to publish the research. You just don't pull it out of thin air. It doesn't just become respected overnight. So what advice would you give to the center as we're looking at doing it and getting started? Obviously, we're going to do something that's going to be very inclusive and working with you all. But today, what kind of advice would you give the center in getting the right kind of journal in the right place?
Get the right editorial board to start off with. You've got to have an editorial board that already has the academic respect. Those might come from finance, they might come from other colleges. I don't think it matters about the college they're from if they themselves have a solid research background and are well respected. So you've got to choose that editorial board very carefully and then have the blind review that we all demand for an A journal. And yes, it's going to take some time. For example, we don't accept a journal on our list unless it's been in existence for 5 years. But if you don't get started now, you won't be there in 5 years, okay? Good. So you've got to lay the groundwork for this. It does take time.
Swarn, Ruth, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, well, I would again emphasize the need for a very strong editorial board, because members of this editorial board are sort of your advocates, and the more prestigious the editorial board is, more prestigious the journal is viewed. And as Finley mentioned, it'll take a little bit of time for the journal to get ranked in the Social Science Citation Index or the journal citation reports that we value as academics. But having that editorial board is a signal of quality that a lot of our colleagues view.
It's an immediate signal.
Right.
And I think just the openness to the diversity of disciplines within financial planning, or that contribute to financial planning. Because it could be a more traditional finance type of article, but it could also be something, as Swarn was saying, in terms of physiological stress measurements for the seating arrangement, for example, in an office. So that diversity has to be reflected in this journal, and it has to be open to that.
Okay, great. So you all have mentioned research and the need to do the research, perhaps to be able to get grant money, et cetera. In your mind, what's the best way, Swarm, for the center to be able to help you get those additional monies to do the research and the grants?
So that's a very good question. And, I think earlier today, Kevin mentioned about some initiative to sort of make data available and perhaps make competitive mini grants available to look for proposals from researchers and scholars to use that data. And so then you get you get to select the best proposals which will be most impactful to our field, and maybe provide access to data to those scholars and researchers to do their work, and then find a good outlet to publish that or showcase that research, the findings of that study. So.
Finley, anything to add?
I'll pass on that one. Let you know.
So earlier, Kevin talked about CFP board, the Center for Financial Planning, being a bridge between the academic world and the, if you'll pardon me, the real world of going out and getting a job. What's from your all's perspective, what is it that you need the most in helping those students be placed to find those opportunities? How do we together connect all those pieces of the bridge? Ruth?
Well, obviously, what we're talking about in terms of the profession will help to, the center can help build the body of knowledge that will then hopefully lead to more research, which will hopefully lead to more graduate students, which will then allow those graduate students to go into more institutions to build financial planning programs. And so it is very much that circle, for lack of a better term, that circle of life, if you will. And through that then, I think we're also training both students that can not only go into the profession and do good jobs as professionals, but we can also work toward them having more grounding in research in the field. Because often what we're using now are books and trade journals to supplements to what's going on in terms of actual everyday practice. But a lot of that is based on anecdotal evidence, not based on truly research-grounded, theoretical grounded work. So that's what we're trying to advance all of this, and it all has to work together at some level.
Finley?
Well, I think one point you're making there is building the prestige of the profession. If you build the prestige of the profession, more students will enter that. Now, let me circle back then to bridging, how you can bridge. One way is helping us, or helping potential faculty or faculty who might want to be in this area. What are the pertinent research questions? What are the real, questions that you face, that the profession faces on a day-to-day basis? And then the faculty can address those, do the research to address those questions. I can think in accounting, the FASB often poses questions related to their standards and give grants or fellowships for those faculty who seem to have the best proposal to answer those questions. So that you can pose very direct questions that can be answered in the research. And as you build that research with the new journal, prestigious journal, you build the prestige of the profession. And as you build the prestige of the profession, then I think you'll have more and more people enter the profession. Okay?
And that kind of leadership and direction is what we need now. And that's what the center can provide.
Good. Well, we have a few minutes left. I've got other questions, but I'd like to open it up to the audience if we can. And again, there's a couple of microphones and a bunch of hands up, so just jump in there.
Hi, Ken Beagle. I am affiliated with Touro College. I'm an academic. I took the leadership role in setting up a financial planning program, which is up, but I can't say is running, nor is it yet registered with the CFP board. My question has to do with the journal, much of what I'm hearing is aspirational and laudatory. I don't know what the status is. I wonder if you could give us a status report more specifically. Are you at the stage now where you would be looking for contributors, referees, editors? Are you ready to take that on? And if so, how does one go about that? Thanks.
So if you do me a favor and pass the microphone. Oh, you're going to do it? Okay, thanks, Ocean.
Good. Thank you very much for asking that question. So we have a relationship with John Wiley, who publishes CFP Board's Financial Planning Competency Handbook. We are working with them on the establishment of the academic journal. And the very first step, as our esteemed colleagues said, was recruiting, first of all, the editor and then the editorial board. So Dr. Charles Chafin on our staff, who is our Director of Academic Programs and Initiatives, will begin working on a short list of our dream team for the editorial board and an editor to do that. So we are, as we speak, this is in progress.
Okay, so Dr. Chafin is the go-to person?
Dr. Chafin is.
So I'll start with a comment that's directly related to Dr. Charles Chafin, because I would tell you, and I implore all of you here, by the way, my name is Steve Samuels, I'm with Merrill Lynch, and if you just go to your alma mater who may not have one of these programs, and you work with Dr. Charles, he will connect with them instantly, whether it's the dean of the business school or some other department, and the CFP board is really happy to engage in those conversations. I want to applaud and thank all of you because of your efforts in being pioneers in this place and in space. We're going to help solve a lot of the issues and discussion we had earlier. But I do have a question in terms of how we can get students more attracted to it. I think was it Ronnie? Ronnie mentioned a comment before about if our firms and our industry does not provide a path where students in your classes see they can get a role where they will be apprenticed, where they'll be salaried for a longer period of time than before, and it's a different sort of path today, to more of a career than it was before. It was before sales, now it's professional. What are your thoughts on that, and in terms of what your students are thinking and the psychology of when they sign up for your classes and for this program, where they see their career going? How is it relayed from their eyes?
Please, that's one.
Okay, so in our program, we have students. So there are some students who want to be the rainmaker, and they're interested in that. And for some of them, that risk and reward, opportunities appeal to them. Others, as the previous group mentioned, want to focus on financial planning, meeting with clients, and they're probably just too new to the profession, and they need being mentored, and that's more appealing to them, a sort of a regular salaried position. And I can add that what Merrill Lynch is doing, your new model will be very appealing to a lot of our students. So, yeah.
I think to follow up on what Swarm said, there are two other issues that we need to keep in mind. One is they do want to be involved in that helping people. So that is really their motivation for coming into the career. That's why it's so important for them to get involved in the relationships early on, even if it is tangential to that relationship, but actually having some contact. And so they want to be involved in that, but they also realize that they probably don't have the skills nor the knowledge to do the complexity of what this job entails. So for many of them, it is an issue of confidence. And the other thing I would mention is when we have students graduating with $1,000 to $1,200 or more in student loan debt to pay back every month, you can't put them in a commission earning job and expect them to survive. And that's the bottom line. I mean, we can't teach them how to manage money and then say, okay, get a job earning commissions and we wish you good luck.
I want to back up a little bit because, in accounting, most majors don't know they're going to be majors until they get to the university and they find out about accounting.
Unless their father or mother was an accountant.
True. But I think it's the same thing with those who might want to go into financial planning. They don't know about it. They've got to be educated about it. You've got to be on the campus. I would say the board needs to do some kind of push on campuses to educate students about the opportunities in the field. The opportunities are going to grow and grow and grow because we're all aging, and we need to plan. I just think the education part is very important. You need to be on the campus. Now, Fidelity, their new campus in Westlake, Texas, is just a few miles away. They're in our atrium over and over, and the students are all there studying and working and everything. They set up a table and it says Fidelity, and they don't wait for the students to walk up. They go and start talking to the students. Now, TD Ameritrade is on our campus. They're in our atrium talking to our students. And I realize financial planning can be individuals, not be companies, but you've got to educate the students about the opportunities and about the profession before they take that plunge.
Bob?
Thank you, Ray. Not all of us are aging, by the way. I just want to point that out.
Oh, yes, you are.
But my question is trying to pull the two panels together. So you've got a lot of students across the spectrum, undergraduate, graduate. What percentage of them are women? What percentage are minorities? What do you see as the demographic trend in your programs today?
We are 27% women, 25% minorities.
And I would say we're about 40% women, and we also have lots of first-generation minority students in the program, very smart students. They have to be accepted to our university. And so we've been fortunate because of the location of our university. So the Atlanta Metro is nearby, there is Charlotte nearby. So we've been able to place, almost all of our students, but it's a challenge for the first generation minority students. They take longer to be placed. We encourage them to participate in the local chapters of the Financial Planning Association or try and volunteer to put their name and face out there. But we're trying, we've got a number of programs in place and we're trying to do that, but it's a challenge. It's a good question. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Okay, at the University of North Texas in the College of Business, we are 40 to 45% women. But it does kind of vary across the disciplines. Mm-hmm. Accounting is almost 50% women. Finance is probably 15% women. I suppose there is an explanation for that. In the accounting faculties, almost half, it is probably half women. Finance is all men, okay? Practically all men. So there, we're talking earlier in diversity about seeing themselves there. Maybe that reflects that as well. So I think it varies across the disciplines. But we too, like you, are our student body is very diverse. We're in DFW, and it becomes more and more and more diverse, it seems, every semester.
We have time for one more question, and all of the panelists will be with us through lunch, so maybe you can catch them after the session is over. Please.
And I'm not sure that this is in the right place even, but I am studying with two of my people at work who have taken all the classes and they're studying for the tests now. Would this Financial Planning Center speak to changing some of the curriculum that the kids are learning? Most of it they will never ever, or maybe we need to add practical onto it as opposed to all of this academic stuff that they can memorize for that test and the next day they're never ever going to use it. In 30 years I've never used a lot of it. And I used to teach, and I took 6 tests and wrote out, and people had to read our handwriting back then. We did the case studies. And they think this is harder, not harder than the case studies. But I think that more practical would be good. And I like the psychological economics and that kind of stuff, but that's not in this test that we're taking multiple choice, 1, 2, 3, that we have to memorize everything from 6 courses and put it now. Would this center have anything to do with maybe refining that curriculum?
So I'm not quite sure I understand the question. Is the question around the test for the CFP designation, or are you talking about what's being taught in the schools?
Well, I mean, you have to teach for the test. I mean, it's like, the United States is teaching toward the test. These kids have to pass this test, and they're not all kids. These people who are taking the test need to pass the test in order to be able to get certified and practice. So are we teaching, is the test really helping people come into the profession and know what they're doing?
Let me try to give a quick answer to that if I can. The test that the CFP board extends in order to get the designation, every 5 years we go out to learn from financial planners, practicing financial planners. What is it that you're doing on a day-to-day basis? And based on the information that comes back from that every 5 years, a panel of people get together and the questions are changed, modified. The emphasis in the different areas is appropriate to what that study actually comes back and tells us.
Can you ask me next time?
I'm sorry?
Can you ask me next time? I've never been asked.
We survey all CFPs.
Kevin tells me all CFP professionals receive an email, I would assume, to ask to participate. So with that in mind, Finley, Swarn, Ruth, thank you very much. We appreciate not only being on the panel, but for those of us that are in the profession, and we just hired our first college grad December last year from the University of Central Florida. Keep doing the great job and help us find that next generation. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Another great panel discussion, and allow me to add my thanks to Ray Ferrara for moderating the session, again to Dr. Ruth Lytton, Dr. Swarn Chaterjee, and Dr. Finley Graves. Thank you very much. That was a great presentation. Let me draw the morning to a close with just some concluding remarks, if I could. Certainly, I want to thank everyone who has shared their insights today. Today is indeed a milestone on that proverbial journey of the financial planning profession that we've been referring to. Given the amount of work that needs to be done to address workforce development and diversity, to build an academic home and body of knowledge for the profession, and to address the other issues facing the profession, it's evident that we need more than one organization or firm to help us continue the journey by developing and implementing solutions. It will take the collective input from financial services firms, academic institutions, educators, and practitioners around the country to address the challenges facing our profession. We invite all who share in our vision for the profession to join us and support the Center for Financial Planning with financial and thought leadership contributions. Please visit the Center's website. Again, it's centerforfinancialplanning.org. Consider how you can best advance the Center's important work. Again, thank you to all of you who joined us today via the webcast, the live webcast. We will now be ending the stream. For those of you who are here in New York, and I know who you are, okay, please join us for lunch and for special remarks from Jill Schlesinger, a CFP professional and Emmy-nominated business analyst at CBS News. And the lunch, by the way, will take place in the Manhattan Ballroom on the 8th floor below us. So please go across the terrace bridge where we had the breakfast reception and make a right and go down the stairs and you'll find the lunch right there. So with that, we stand adjourned. Thank you very much.